And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse.
No,
right?
DNA is created. A zygote.
DNA is not created.
A DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA,
Charlie,
the
Charlie,
DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
I'll let you finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie, DNA...
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak. You have to...
But answer it, yes or
Charlie,
no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created.
Always tough question, Jonathan, on abortion. But anyway, let's continue with this debate.
All right, so thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I'm a medical student, and I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you. Your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
Sure.
But about abortion specifically. Why do you think abortion's wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong?
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because it has consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
What is it that gives human being this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know, I can imagine it's because it is a human being, because it has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's...
Exactly. Again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can laugh. It's true. Every civilization has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, is that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Fine, so, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that from?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse.
No,
right?
DNA is created. A zygote.
DNA is not created.
A DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA,
Charlie,
DNA coding at the zygote. Hold on, time out.
I'll let you finish.
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie,
Does a zygote have a unique marker?
You have to let me speak.
But answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Define a unique marker.
Meaning, can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have, the father has his own genome, the mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me, where does a human being come from? I can say to you, it starts at conception, but all conception is these two cells joining, right? But these two cells were created, the mother's cells were created long before, they were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish, the only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason, suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these two cells who had half the DNA, but suddenly there's a
Correct, yes, something magical happens at that moment.
It's not magical, Charlie, we know about this.
Well, hold on.
Charlie.
Time out, hold on.
Charlie. I promise you, I'm not trying to score points. I'm not trying to score points on you. This is genuine.
We call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because yes, it's something beautiful, the ability to form a new...
Magical.
It's not... You say magical as in, it's beautiful, it's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA though than the mother?
Yes, from the father.
Okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created.
Charlie,
you are a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
when did your life
begin? I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now, you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically, in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out and you can find that this is who the person's mother is. And you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other. And so those genes interact and that's what gives rise to you, right? But there's no space for any kind of moral framework to come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they call molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing, that does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points. I'm trying to understand.
By what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion, just so you can understand? I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman who has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So by what moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
Well, hold on. So you do believe in objective morality?
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative
So if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you can't?
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. Something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly. That if it doesn't affect their well-being, so dementia patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients.
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
I'll respond. So can you imagine a scenario where we lived in a society where we killed people when they suffered from dementia, were incapable of suffering, and we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
Charlie, it's not slaughter, that's the problem.
Hold on, if it's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life, again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding, your uniqueness.
That's what I'm denying. I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology,
yes,
that is where the process of human...
accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a close,
The process
please?
of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to...
No, thank you.
Can I finish?
Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point you've taken.
It makes perfect sense, because that is when your journey as a human being, when the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA existed.
In image.
Your DNA existed. I thought...
Well, no, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to get
Can we move on to the next question, please? Thank you.
It's very true that in a sense he might be a medical student, but he still lacks some kind of comprehension when it comes to the DNA and how an human being is being formed. Now, when you look at it, you understand that the egg itself, or should I say the egg in the ovary itself, you understand, is not alive, is not a human being, even though it can form, but on its own, the eggs in those ovary are not. Same thing is also applicable to the sperm cells. Until conception happen, until intercourse happen, right? That is when those sperm cells, and the egg, they tend to fuse together. That's where the life, begin. And then that's when we talk about, the chromosomes, right? That's when the cells, they fuse together, and that's when, the human being is formed. So that is why, without crossing both the sperm cells, and also the eggs from the ovary, human cannot form. The eggs, in the ovary itself, cannot form a baby. It cannot form a human being. Likewise, the sperm cells on their own, they can't form a human being. It means that, it needs, those eggs, from the ovary for a human to be formed. And that's when the DNA, it is formed. And that's why, when you get, some of the sperm cells, and then that of the woman, once they fuse together, that's forms if it is XX, we says that it is female, and then if it is XY, we says that it is male. So it means that a man on its own, cannot just form it, right? It cannot just form the human being. So that's why we're saying that life begin at conception. So it means that once those two, comes together, right, then human being has been formed. So it means that if you do anything at that point in time, or you take something that makes you induce, or kills, that formation, or destroy that formation, then that's called abortion. So it's not about, you says that until the person, have conscious or understand his level of consciousness, then before you could say is that, okay, it is wrong. No, we don't have to look at it that way. We have to look at it, from conception, and not from somebody having, level of consciousness. And then that's the reason why sometimes, some people could even maybe lose their consciousness, either in form of dementia. Okay, that one could come with old age, but then you could see, for instance, maybe probably somebody loses their consciousness, for instance, but a woman can still menstruate. Why do you think, is happening like that? She's already lost her consciousness, so why did she still menstruate even at that state? So that's why, we are saying that it's not about that until somebody be able to feel pain, just like how the student says before, we says that, it is wrong. No, we don't have to look at it. Even after 6 weeks, of course, the heartbeat have already formed. So many things, has happened. So that life, is worthy of living, and that's what Charlie is trying to protect the life. That's why he's advocating for it by saying that it is wrong, to commit murder, because if you are being rooted based on the Christian, values, then you got to realize that murder is wrong. And that's why we are saying that people should not, commit murder. Some people could feel that, oh, it's just an abortion, but for them to understand that based on the American, value system, which is being built on Christian, values, that it is wrong to commit abortion. Of course, you can be for another different place and feel that, of course, it is right. It could be that based on the foundation of where you are, it is like that. But as far as you are in America, you should know that it is wrong. And as far as you believe in the person of Jesus Christ, then you should know that it is wrong, irrespective of the circumstance that result to such pregnancy. Even though I know that a lot of you have an opinion, and I want to drop it at the comment section. And may God bless you as you do so. So have a wonderful day, and goodbye.